bring in Cris Collinsworth, Sunday Night Football analyst, Pro Football Focus majority owner, the Cris Collinsworth podcast. He'll be with Al Michaels on the call Sunday night, Tom Brady and Drew Brees. It's a big event weekend on NBC. Also, the Breeders' Cup Classic on Friday and Saturday, Clemson, Notre Dame in primetime Saturday night, NASCAR Cup Series Championship on Sunday afternoon. How's morale, Cris?
What up, brother? You started going through Wisconsin and Michigan. I thought I was listening to the election again. I'm like, now, sir, do you do what I do? Do you sit up and like every election night? I used to love doing this, even though it's during the season and you're a little worn out anyway and the whole thing. But I would love sitting up and watching the whole election night coverage and a little bit of the history of it and everything. And now it's like, election month, election week, I don't even know what you call it anymore.
I did not stay up to watch it because I think that it's probably going to be a few days before this is even called. So I just thought no matter what is said tonight or last night, there's no finality to it. I'd rather just wait, let it all spill out, and then sort of slice and dice and consume it after that.
Yeah. Got to say hi to Bobby Knight there. I miss seeing Bobby. He used to come to all the events around town. I got a chance to see him and talk to him a lot. And one of my all-time favorites. So that's some collection you got going on that desk right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I got,
sweet.
Yeah, I just collect everything. What's the the best piece of sports memorabilia you have?
You know which one I kind of like the most is I've got everybody's autograph on the 1980 Olympic hockey team. On a picture, the picture of them going crazy at the end of the game. And I always wanted to put, I need to get out to do a thing where, the call of the game where I can just push a button. I walk by the picture and push a button. Do you believe in miracles? That would be great.
How does Tom Brady incorporate Antonio Brown or Bruce Arians do this on such short notice?
I think he's a perfect fit for this team right now. I mean, I'm assuming Antonio Brown is still Antonio Brown. Okay. I'm just going to say this. I'm just going to talk football for a minute, because the one thing in watching the tape here of Tampa is that they really miss having that inside threat. How many times have we seen Tom Brady with James White or whatever, just one-on-one, you go up on the linebacker, you make a break to the left, you make a break to the right, get him the ball, beautifully accurate thrown pass. And they really don't have that right now. I mean, that's not Ronald Jones's game. It's not Leonard Fournette's game coming out of the backfield. They're a good power running team. This is one of those old school offenses in Tampa, and it's starting to come together. It looks like Tom Brady in New England now. I mean, they don't run a ton of zone stuff. They run more power blocking, downhill, physical, and every week that I watch them, it looks a little bit better than it did the week before. Of course, the play action off of that. But now they even have Mike Evans in the slot with no Chris Godwin. Even Mike Evans is starting to come down and playing in the slot. Gronk is looking better than he was looking a few weeks ago. So all these pieces are coming together. I just think what they're still missing is that middle of the field threat against man-to-man coverage, just that quick change of direction kind of guy. And who's better at that than Antonio Brown, or at least he was better at that than anybody else.
I also was looking at the offensive line, and I did have questions about that offensive line, but they've been together for the most part this entire season. And if you look at all the injuries to all the other offensive lines around the NFL, I mean, it's kind of remarkable that I think they've only missed a few plays together. And Brady, it feels like they understand Brady. Just give me this amount of time and we're fine. Like that's almost like the blocking scheme. What have you seen?
They're better than that. They really are, because they're physical running the ball. Remember the old play? I bet you I've drawn up this play for Patriots games 1,000 times. The guard pulls out, they have a deep play action pass, and then you hit Gronk over the middle, right? I mean, that's sort of their bread and butter. Well, they're getting back to that now. And they're getting back to that now because they can run the ball effectively. So you're starting to see these guards pulling. I'm starting to see some old counter trays from the Washington Redskins days. it's a very old school. They jumbo a lot. They'll put in Joe Haig as the sixth offensive lineman. But when you start pounding the ball and running the ball with Tom Brady as your quarterback, now you get back to that play action. The guard pulls, linebacker jumps up to try and fill the gap. Here comes Gronk in behind. Here comes Evans. And we have yet to see this offense complete. We have yet to see all the receivers on the field. It's been a really tough year for Gronk. He's not blocking like he used to block because he's got that bad right shoulder. He's just getting creative, turning his shoulder, trying to make blocks and do different things. But I think as you project this team forward, if they can get healthy again, and if this offensive line stays together, I think they could be pretty darn good.
But you know more about Tampa or New Orleans?
A little bit more about Tampa at this point, only because we were getting ready to do Tampa and Vegas. And then we got COVIDed out of that one when Trent Brown got sick. We didn't know if we were going to do the game. And so then they were telling Fred Gaudelli, it's like, it's your guys' call. You can stay on that game, but if it gets canceled, we'll give you another game, but you might be calling Carolina from the booth in Las Vegas. I was like, what? with like a day's notice, and I was like, oh, that doesn't seem very smart. So then it got down to, well, where are you going to move the truck? Right. So we're in Vegas. So yeah, we'll take the game in New England. I think it was San Francisco that week, but we couldn't get the truck there. So then it ended up, the next closest place was Arizona. Seattle at Arizona, and it ended up being a fantastic game. So once again, the luck of the Irish came through.
He's Cris Collinsworth. He'll be on the call Sunday Night Football, and of course, majority owner, Pro Football Focus, the Cris Collinsworth podcast. Would you trade for a veteran this time of the year if you were Green Bay? And let's say you could get Stephon Gilmore, and it was going to cost you a first-round draft pick.
No, I wouldn't take Stephon, because the reason they're trading him, I think, is that he got hurt. He had something with his knee or whatever. The old buyer beware, right? This time of year, you have to know, why is that guy up on the trading block? And
especially
now,
with Belichick too.
Well, and the one thing about Belichick is that he will trade them a year too early. So if you're right on the brink and you think you're one player away, maybe I wouldn't mind doing that deal with Belichick. Because there's a lot of GMs and coaches out there, they don't have the 10-year plan anymore, right? They're on the brink of losing their jobs. And I always thought that was one of the weaknesses of the design of having GMs and coaches make all the decisions about the organization, is when these guys start getting on the bubble or start struggling, well, of course I'm going to trade tomorrow's draft choices for today, because I got to keep my job first and foremost. So you always have to watch that a little bit as well as some of these deals come down.
What about J.J. Watt? Does he have value in the open market?
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Well, how about a first-round draft pick for J.J. Watt? If you're like, throw out anybody who needs help, like Green Bay can't stop the run. Like, would Green Bay and you give a late first-round draft pick for J.J. Watt?
That's a really interesting question. I think the ordinary thought would be no, just because he's a little older and has the history of injuries. Second round pick, possibly, if you thought you were really, really right there on the brink of something. Listen, I played until I was 30, and it felt like I got to 29 and I was feeling good. I'm still going out dancing and having fun in the clubs and doing all that. I got to 30 and I became an old man. Everything fell apart on me. Everything. I don't know what it was. Now, these guys probably know how to train and take care of their bodies better than I did.
Wait. You were dancing in the club?
Well, yeah, I had my fiance was with me at that time, if you want to be that specific with it. Yeah, but yeah, that's how we used to get loose, man. When after a game, I swear, after a game, we did it all the time. Because you get the lactic acid, you go from, man, I feel great leaving the stadium. Let's go out. We're going to go partying. And then you go sit on the couch. And I used to watch, you guys do your highlights and do all that kind of stuff. And then you get up an hour later and you can't move, right? You're like, you feel like that. So then what do? You go out and you have a cocktail, you start dancing a little bit, and everything gets loose again. There you go.
Do you hold a grudge against anybody you played against?
Hold a grudge against anybody I played against. The only guy who really drove me crazy.
But cheap shots. Did anybody take a shot that you just never let go of that?
Frank Minifield called his shot on me.
Ooh.
And said he was. So I had a big game against Cleveland. I had about 150 yards the first game we played them. Frank Minifield said he was going to knock me out of the second game in the newspaper, right? In the newspaper. Say he's going to knock me out. I'm like, oh, okay. I said, from the first play, I'm going down and taking a 15-yard penalty. I am chopping this guy's legs. I'm clipping him. I'm going to roll up. I'm going to take his ankle in my hands. I'm going to try and snap it. I'm going to do anything I can to kill this guy. I come back and get to line of scrimmage, and Boomer audibles to a quick screen to me, like a wide receiver screen to me out there. I was like, all right, but I'm going to get your ass next time. You got one play off here. So I come up, and he throws this quick screen, and it's the last thing I remember. It's the last thing I remember. Minifield comes up, and I don't know what he hits me with. I remember in wrestling, he has a foreign object. I think he had a foreign object in his hand. And I'm out. I am out. And so I'm sitting there, and so they finally like wake me up, and I get up, and I can remember running off the field, and I got to the bench, and I'm standing over, and I'm on the bench, and all of a sudden I kind of come to whatever. I knew this was the first play of the game. And I come to, and I look up at the scoreboard, and it was like 13, 20, whatever. And I go, oh, good. I didn't miss anything. Second quarter. So I stand up and I fall down. Apparently I had fallen back over my ankle and my knee. So I'm completely gone. I don't know what quarter it is. I can't walk. And I still want to go get after Frank Minifield's ass because he said he was going to hurt me, which he did. So, yes, I do hold a grudge about that.
What was his number, 37?
What was his number? God,
30,
maybe.
31? 31.
31. I think that might be it.
31.
He and Hanford Dixon were both good players.
Yeah. But you never did he? Was it a cheap shot when you saw it, or was it just a great tackle by him?
It was a foreign object. I'm totally convinced. He's not that tough a guy. I've seen him 100 times since then. I tell him, I go, you're not that tough a guy. What did you have in your hand? He picked up one of the batteries, whatever they were throwing at us.
Something in there. Yeah. Do you got a good handle on the Steelers?
Yeah, I watched a good bit of that. You know what impressed me most about the Steelers is that they had that game against Tennessee, and I don't know if you watched that one or not, but that was a bloodbath. I mean, they were trying to kill each other out there, right? Mm. So much so that we came back, and on their PFF show, they had me picking the games and all. So I said, I tell you what, I am not picking either the Steelers or Tennessee the week after this game. Teams simply cannot put together back-to-back physical games like what that game was. And I was right about Tennessee. Tennessee came back and they got beat by Cincinnati. Pittsburgh goes into Baltimore, and it's, if anything, bloodier than the one that they had in Tennessee, and just went toe-to-toe for the entire four quarters. I can't tell you how impressed I am with the Pittsburgh Steelers, putting two of those games back-to-back together to stay undefeated. And they're not even close yet on their offense. I mean, I still think offensively they're going to get better. And if they do with the way they're playing defense right now, they're going to be tough.
But also, I remember that bettors would tell me whoever played Seattle the week after they played Seattle always bet against that team when they faced the Legion of Boom. That they were,
I like that.
Yeah, they were going to get beat up.
I like that. Richard Sherman's on the podcast that I do.
Yeah.
I wasn't even going to do a podcast. And he said, well, I can get you Richard Sherman as a guest. And I as my way of getting out of the podcast, I said, you get me Richard Sherman every week to do the podcast, I'll do one. They got Richard Sherman, so I'm doing a podcast every week. I don't know how, but he is truly one of the most interesting guys to talk to week in and week out. He's not afraid. He talks about whatever he wants to talk about. It's really been fun.
Yeah, I saw that you were doing that along with Pro Football Focus and then Football Night in America. You're busy.
My life sucks.
You
No,
poor
it
guy.
doesn't.
Poor guy.
It's fantastic.
Poor guy.
No, it's great. I mean, I really, what if you're gonna watch football all day, the idea of talking about football isn't that bad a job, right? I mean, it's actually, I'm taking a break right now from my film study to come in here and talk. So I was thrilled to get a chance to take a break and come see Bobby Knight.
But are you okay with being criticized?
I'm criticized all the time.
I know, but it's still not easy. You can read, Cris, you're great, and then there's one guy saying whatever, and that, 1 out of 10 will stay with you.
Every single week, I say something that somebody considers to be the dumbest thing they ever heard in their life. Every week. I mean, do I go looking for it? I don't. Generally, my kids send it to me, right? They cannot wait for whatever I screw up. I've got one. I had one. I can't even say it because it's like so foul, right? That I can't even. I would feel uncomfortable saying it. But it's also hilarious because it was totally innocent on my part. And by the time that I got home, my kids had made a video of what I said and put it on a loop. And it just ran all day. I'm like, oh, please make it stop, please. And you have no idea. I mean, half the time I leave the stadium, I have absolutely no idea what stupid thing I've said this week. And then you go on like social media and you look at it like, you cover your eyes and you start flipping because you don't know what it is. You don't know what it is that you did this week, but every week it's something.
Good to visit with you. My best to Holly, and we'll be watching Sunday night.
Thank you, man. Anytime. Give me a call.
That's Cris Collinsworth, Sunday Night Football. Got a podcast there with Richard Sherman, and he got in early with Pro Football Focus.